a beautiful mess. A beautiful mess, yeah. Life is a beautiful mess. A beautiful mess, yes. Life is a beautiful mess. A beautiful mess. I'm trying, I'm crying, I feel like I'm dying.
All right, hey everybody, welcome back to Being Human and Other Shit, like he likes to say. We have my beautiful friend Serrena here with us today. She's an intuitive coach and healer. We're super excited to get into just everything she has to probably tell us and maybe ask her. So I'm going to pass it to Melissa.
So today I just want to acknowledge that I am recording here in my house and on the ancestral homelands of the Miwok people. I acknowledge them as the past, present, and future caretakers of this land. And Stacy is on the Nisenan people ancestral homeland today.
Serena, I'm going to let you take it from here.
So I'm going to give a shout out to my guides, my teachers, all the indigenous lands, and those who've gone before, all of my ancestors, all the teachers and healers of the native lands. So I'm going to do a little something in light of this time of year. It's a Cherokee grandmother song, and I'm only going to do four rounds traditionally. I'm sure y'all but I'm just going to do a little shout out. So this is for the children. The grandmothers used to sing this. This is Cherokee, and I learned it from an acting show. So anyway, it might not sound like it's Dolby Stereo, y'all, but one day one day one day yeah.
Nice.
Thank you.
I felt that in my soul.
That's what I'm talking about.
Nice. So we normally just kind of jump right in. We always ask the same initial questions where we kind of like to give anybody who's listening to this just like a background, like an insight into your background. So just kind of who you are, how you grew up. We don't have to go super deep, but just, what you feel it's important for our listeners to know about you.
Well, y'all, I was, going way back. I was born in California, raised in Idaho, in Boise. So I grew up country, and this kind of speaks to I guess one of the reasons I am built the way I am. But and so the family that I grew up in, socioeconomic wise, lower middle class, very I'm glad I grew up in Boise. I'm glad that I grew up with the way that I did. It was real simple living. My dad used to play John Denver. I grew up on Dolly Parton. My first concert
Dolly Parton.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Capricorn, represent. And Waylon Jennings, if y'all know who that is, was my first concert. I was like 9 or 10. So anyway, we didn't traditionally, it's a spiritual tradition, we didn't go to church or anything. But my dad, we were always camping, always. And he did his thing. They were fishing, hunting, and all that. But I was kind of a fairy, I just went in the woods and went and did my little thing. And I think that was my first connections to land. And, I talked to, I was a little different. So I talked to the rocks, talked to the trees, just kind of be connected. And I just go off for hours. So it was fun. I mean, I did some, country life is good. And then as far as what, my dad, I just wanted to speak to this because it's kind of funny. But my dad was a car painter. He did auto body, right? So he said, okay, 16, my first car, right? And he goes, what? When I got a 68 Volkswagen Bug. And he goes, okay, I'm going to paint your car. This is my gift to you. I'm going to hook it up. He didn't actually say it like that. He was like, okay. I'm just gonna say it. I can't believe I'm going to be this vulnerable on film. But he called me Fart Blossom, right? That's country, straight up,
Love it.
Yeah.
You
gotta
just
have
won
it.
Melissa
Yeah.
over. We can call her
Yeah.
for a chamber.
Yeah. Very graceful, empowering. So he goes, Fart Blossom, I want you to pick the color of your car. So, he's probably thinking like candy apple red, candy apple blue, or something, all that. And I run into the cabinet and I grab a bottle of Pepto-Bismol, right? And I said, this is it, So he, it was a surprise, like paints my car. It's like pearlescent and all stuff. And it's got my nickname on the back from high school.
Oh, I thought
And
it was gonna be
look,
Fart Blossom.
no, it gets back. So my nickname was Danny, like, DANI. But I'm looking at the car, and over that little thing that covers the license on the back on a Volkswagen, I'm like, what are those flowers? And then I look closer and it says FB on the top of it, right? So Fart Blossom, he was giving me a shout out. I was like, oh my God, now I have to explain it. But it came back to him because that car would break down, and my dad looked like Kenny Rogers, a man's man, and he had to drive that pink bug, or do whatever he was doing. So, karma, chameleon. But anyway, yeah, I stayed in Idaho till I was like 18, and I left 2 weeks out of high school and went back to New York, and that was a lot of culture, and dove right in. And beautiful time though. So, and it was in the 90s, y'all, when it was like gritty and wrong,
I could imagine that to be such a culture shock to go from Idaho to New York City.
Yeah. I mean, it was so awesome. My best friend from high school, he's a Shoshone Bannock, actually Native American, and adopted off a tribe. Anyway, we'd hit the clubs. We looked so freaky that like, they'd give us the, come on in, so Limelight, like it was back in the day. It was fun.
That's awesome.
I mean, I have family that lives near Boise, and I remember the first time I went, I was like, what was happening? And that was like 5 or so years ago, the first time I went. So I can imagine back then the difference.
Even New York City, where
yeah,
back then, was a whole different scene.
Yeah, off the hook, y'all.
So how did you realize you had these like psychic abilities? When and how?
Oh my goodness. Well, I tell people I came in a little different, but I didn't know it. It's just how I rolled. I guess you could say I was sensitive. I was kind of empathic, but it was that connection with nature that somehow kind of tapped me in. And I still do it, when a hummingbird, I'm like, stop, honor it, but yeah, I was always little different. But I was, I went through my phases, drinking and stuff, just really not acknowledging, I guess, my spiritual self. But that's how we get to where we're going eventually, sometimes we learn what not to do and who we're not. And of course I was young, got to do it. So the question was like, how did I know, or when did I first start seeing it?
Both. Like how old were you? When did you start to realize that this was a gift that you had rather than just, I'm different than other people?
Okay. Yeah. So I really came in light of me kind of recovering from New York, my car broke down in Texas, Bryan College Station, Texas. Anyway, started doing some acting, and really going in, like really started my recovery journey. In that, I started really listening, and just, going through a lot of struggles and wanted answers, for myself. Shooting fast forward, I was supposed to go to an acting school back east. And at the last minute, I was like, I'm out. And I went, I was supposed to go back to New York City, and I went to Austin. The reason I'm speaking to that is that that's where I really jumped in. And I was really exploring. I took like a theology class in college. Not that I graduated, I'm just saying. And
you still went.
Yeah, but it sounds cool. So anyway, I got, for curiosity's sake, I got into this tarot class, and I was just like, learning the cards and and I was all excited about it. But it really took me on a journey, it read me. So then fast forwarding, at the same time in Austin, I met this amazing dude, Taurus, Cancer rising. Anyway, he taught us astrology, salt and pepper, straight up. It is what it is. Like this is this. I mean, just kind of really, not necessarily really metaphysical, but this, really kind of old school. So, and that enlightened me. So it just sort of, it was a catalyst, I guess, for what I already kind of knew. And like, it was like affirming, and helped me come in more to my path to wellness too. I do kind of want to speak to this because this is a big piece. So I started doing readings because I quit drinking and I wasn't doing that. So we do these parties and shows. And so I would show up like as a hobby. This is pre-Austin actually, and then really into Austin. And I start reading for people just as a thing. And this was probably like at that same time, like 2022 is when I really started coming in. But anyway, fast forwarding, and I'll kind of get to some of that. I'm in New Orleans the first time pre-Katrina, and it was year 2000. And I went to a ceremony, a spiritual ceremony, and actually that anniversary date's coming up. Long story short, y'all, I had like a ghetto lord, which happens there sometimes because it's old money and no money. And the heater was one of those archaic, because architecture is different. It's like this little, thing on the bottom with gas heat. And I reached for something. Little did I know, the gas was spurting out. Like it wasn't good.
Oh my.
So I heard myself like the loudest scream I'd ever heard. Y'all, I was on fire, and I'm not talking like my shirt's on fire. It's like stop, drop, and roll. But I didn't, of course, because I'm me, Moon and Aries, and I'm on like seriously like engulfed in flames. I'm not. It was the hair, the brows, like all of it. So so eventually, of course, I did stop, drop, and roll, and I burned through the tile, right?
Oh my gosh.
So the shirt burned off. It was so I'm in shock. Of course, I'm totally out my body. And something tells me, you better go outside, get some help, because I live by myself. So I crossed the street, and that was the beginning of a very powerful journey, and a hard journey, because I was, 3rd degree, my whole torso, So in that healing process, not only did a lot of trauma come up, but y'all, it was like a lightning bolt from God. That's all I know how to explain it. And I kind of had this empathy. I mean, I was pretty intuitive. But I remember reading full time then at the Bottom of the Cup, which is like the oldest reading establishment in the country is there, and I started to like smell stuff, for I work a lot with ancestors, but I didn't always. So to make a long story short, I'll never forget that I was reading for somebody, and I could see their ancestors, like what they want, like flowers. And I saw the person, but I don't see it. It's kind of weird. I feel it. And I smell the flowers, and that was like, whoa, okay, that's new. The point is, it just really progressed from there. I mean, for me, every time I've gone through a major trauma, I either grow or go. And for me, it's like always that intuition and those skills. Like it just, yeah.
So when
sure.
you're when you're like seeing or feeling something, are you like imagining something as well? Like, is there an image in your mind with it, associated with it?
Yeah, for sure. Now there is definitely. But here's a little thing. I won't watch scary movies. I can't. And I have kind of a deal with them, because I don't know really how it works. I just show up. And I'm kind of old school. I don't use like clairvoyant, all that. But I feel like somehow my guides and ancestors sort of correspond with, if they have a message, their ancestors or their guides, and they kind of have this party going on. And that's when the dialogue begins, I'm assuming. And all of a sudden, I mean, I can't believe some of the stuff that comes out of my mouth, really, to be quite honest with you. So, yeah, I do see it, and some people visually see it. For me, it's like sometimes I'll get sensations in my body. For example, like I'll say, okay, your head's been hurting, and I'll have to say this 5 times. I'm not a medical doctor, just for that cover that. But I'll feel stuff, like I'll kind of feel my head hurt. Or I can, I can see the ancestor, like literally I see him, but it's almost like it comes through it's very empathic. I feel it. And somehow I describe it, if that makes any sense. And language is not, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's like if you're doing, I don't, correct me, like Melissa, if the terminology is wrong, because I know earlier we were saying like psychic. I don't know if that's right, but
yeah,
you're doing like a reading or having like a session with somebody. As if like if your head starts hurting, is it because this person in front of you has like been having issues? Okay, yeah, sometimes you gotta slow.
Yeah, and like a lot of times, I'll ask, just to confirm, like the ancestor, and I don't do kind of spooky, like I don't take people. I'm not fear based when I read that, so not my role is for my purpose, but I'll confirm. I'll say, well, I'm feeling that this person may have crossed over like very abruptly, and I'll just tell them what I see. I'll like a heart condition, or and I just say like I feel like, but the main goal is to really let the folks, us know that they're at peace, always.
I feel like that's what a lot of people probably go to you for, right? Is to like that confirmation, like my family members at peace or direction. Because that's kind of the question I was going to run into, is like, what spiritual gifts do you feel like you have, or do you have?
Dude, it keeps growing. So it started
belly during COVID.
What's that now?
Like my belly during COVID.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Soul
all
food.
of our bellies. All of our bellies.
Yeah, they put love in that food in New Orleans. I mean, there's no joke on that, and they do not hold back on the serving.
My way through New Orleans.
Mm-hmm. Loving the food, y'all. Shout out, and I want to give a shout out to my peeps there in the 9th Ward, in the 7th Ward, and everywhere, French Quarter, because of Hurricane Ida, which I just experienced. It was 20 years to the date of Katrina. So, those folks are troopers, and they continue to represent. So anyway, that's my shout out, and I love y'all. So, so the gifts, it's like, it becomes more of a feeling, like, so it's almost like, and this seems really abstract and kind of all over, but I literally, will feel like I'll get a message. My clients are kind of like, that's my peeps, that's my tribe. So I'll get a message. It might be 3:00 in the morning. I don't call them at 3, but I reach out to them because for some reason that spoke to me, and I need to kind of, have to represent. That's my role. So, so I get texts at 6. So like I'll get a feeling, and then it's like, it just comes, the message. Now I'm not God, what they do with that is their, but I think the trick, and I know all these questions are here, but like, we all have it, y'all. We all come in like that. That's my opinion, my experience.
Just whether or not we're tapping into it.
Yeah. And that's what I call it, is tapping in. And it's like, I've just been riding the bike a minute, a little bit longer. So it's like, working out, which I don't do physically, but it's like riding that bike, and you never forget. And then it just kicks in, and you just kind of, for me, I just kind of go to a different place and let it flow.
Is it exhausting?
I'm going to tell a funny story about that. So, and Bottom of the Cup used to do these parties, right? This is so funny, y'all. So, so we're doing this Christmas party, and it's actually for Trent Reznor, right, of 9 Inch Nails. So I happened to be the one that read for him, and it was like 20 people, and this happened a lot at Bottom of the Cup. So when I would leave, I felt like I was physically swimming for like 8 hours. I mean, it was,
wow.
It's really, because I don't know how to explain it, but it's like you're really tired, and you just go away for a minute, especially when you're really tapping in. It's like a whole other world, because it's like each person has their guides. So you have to jump back in, and it's a lot of shifting. So, Trent, like, I'm doing a little, thing for him, and he's so sweet. And he goes, so what are you doing later? And I'm so country, y'all. So it'd been a minute. It'd been like 20 people, and we've been there all night. And I look at him. This is like Trent Reznor. Like, here's my opportunity, my claim to fame. And I go, I want to get some chicken and get back in my body. You know, like, yeah. So that was like how I, I just, it does get heavy. Like, it can get.
How did you respond to that?
He's a really cool guy. Really quiet, actually. He just kind of, from what I remember, he was just like kind of giggled and yeah.
Because I remember seeing your bio when I first worked with you, and there you had a pretty lengthy history in LA, right?
I'm sorry, in what? History in what?
You had a pretty lengthy history reading for people in LA, wasn't it?
It was in New Orleans, a lot of it.
New Orleans, that's what it was. That's right.
And a lot of folks in LA, a lot, as you know, Stacey, and Sacramento, New York, the Northwest. So yeah, and Austin's where it all began. So yeah.
Ooh, I want to go to Austin so bad.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So that, I mean, I don't know about you. I'm a huge music fan. So to me, that would be my greatest metaphysical experience. Do you consider that story your greatest or no?
Well, there's a couple that I thought of that I kind of want to speak to.
Please.
The one that's sort of a Shaka Khan experience for me, and I got to look at a whole new skill set that I didn't know I could do. I do just really within the past couple years. For some reason, y'all, I can't do business for myself. I can't. As a matter of fact, I can't even read for myself. I'm not allowed to. Like, it just doesn't happen. It's crazy. So anyway, so there's these clients that come into New Orleans right before I left at the shop I was working at. And cool guy, like Mohawk, and they're from Canada, this couple. And last minute, we're fixing closed. Anyway, they get a reading. And I really wasn't supposed to give my number, you know what I'm saying? But I just kind of felt like, spirit trumps business. So I did it. And I ended up reading for them even more. And that they were traveling from Canada. So they had 3 kids, 2 dogs, 2 bunnies, in this trailer, right? So they pull up in a trailer and I'm reading at one of those little wooden, you know what I'm saying, right next to the propane stove. And we're doing some heavy stuff. Like, it just came through. And mind you, the kids, the bunny, lots going on. So my point is, he had a lot of investing questions, right? And it just flew out. Long story short, this is, I don't know. So in less than 2 months, we worked together. I wish I would have gotten a percentage, but he invested and he came up $2 million ahead, right?
Wow.
Oh my gosh. I think you told me this story. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah. Now, I don't do the lottery number. That's not, but for some reason he was supposed to receive that. And I was supposed to get the percent. No, I'm just kidding.
She's like, my address is, go ahead and write a check to me.
Right. My Venmo is, the top is $1 million, but super sweet people, really, really cool people. And the other one is, this is what I love, because I do a lot of what I call intuitive coaching. So really the reading kind of starts it, and we get to look at which way, we can go, and ways to, it's a lot of wellness, which I kind of had some training in. So one of my clients is a single mom. I probably might start crying, which I do a lot of. And so I'm not saying her name, so it's kind of hip. I can talk about it. Well, she was in a situation with her daughter, and the ex was dominant. There's a lot of stuff there. And he had got it to where he not only had custody of the daughter, but was really affecting her and her child, right? And this took a year, guys, but we turned the beat around. She did the work. It's all her. But again, for some reason, all this procedural, what to say, how to say it, this penal code, everything, Spirit just gave it to her, right? Wow. But the cool shit is, right, she did the work. I mean, she'd show up in these legal battles, really. And Spirit kept telling her, you got to finish this. It's not about all this. It's because you're showing up and you're facing your fear, right? The biggest thing. And she was convinced, not only was he going to have custody and make her life hell, but her daughter, right? Anyway, fast forward a year later, she's got the selenite stones in her left hand during all this and just doing a lot of work. And she not only has the custody of her daughter, but she also got the money. Like his wages are garnished. So this doesn't seem like a glorious story or really mystical story, but that I'm gonna start crying. That's what I do. That's my peach.
Yeah.
Is the journey. So I'm so proud of you. I wish I could say her name. But
So
yeah.
that is a big win. My family has gone through some custody stuff, and it's wears on you. Wears on you when you're working really hard and you're fighting somebody who's doing things for money, or manipulating the kids to get money, and it's really hard to deal with. So that's really, really cool to hear.
Do you ever
That's really
get people like off put by your abilities?
Oh,
Or
snap. Yes. In 28 years though, I've had 3 folks that I actually recommended to somebody else. And I gave one of them, I gave her money back, and I recommended her to a really good friend of mine in Sacramento, and whoever, because we're not all a fit for a person.
Mhm.
The way maybe I deliver the message to you and Stacy, maybe you're like, no, and
No,
that's
I mean,
important. I tell people, listen to your gut. Just because I say it, don't give me that power. You got to listen to your gut. I call it your gut. So, if somebody comes at, this is just a little precaution, in my opinion. If someone comes at you fear based, or you got to do this, or you got to do that, or you have to pay, da da da, that's a sign, right? So, in short, yes, because I have an opinion about what it was, but they weren't happy with what was said. So in short, I feel like sometimes we want what we want, including me.
Yeah.
And I get hell bent on it. This is what's going to happen. I want it to happen. And that in that case, I'm not that type of reader. I'm not. That's not. Some folks do it. My thing is just showing up for folks and really, spirit, really, and my ancestors. So, and their ancestors. So, it's really interesting because when I was in New Orleans, folks drank a lot on bourbon, and I literally worked on bourbon. And it's I don't mind if people drink, I can still do it. But I had a lot of folks drinking and kind of testing it, right? So I have this sometimes where people want to know, and they're like kind of like, this isn't real, I'm gonna ask them this, right? And then when it comes out, they always do this. How'd you know that?
Yeah.
This is what you signed up for. You just paid me good money for this.
yeah.
So that
I-
has happened quite a bit. Yeah.
I can
Well,
imagine, yeah.
I came into you already, somebody who had worked with healers before. I have like a regular person I'd normally go to, and I remember I just was like searching for something the day that I looked on, Sunlight of the Spirits, like event calendar, and read your bio and was like, she seems dope. I'm gonna go in. And I remember it turned into like an almost hour. Remember, it was like 15 minutes. I was like, I'm gonna go get a quick little, and I remember telling Melissa, like, what I loved about it is you were one of the only people that was like, hey, why don't you record this? So you remember later, which I'm like, this is already my person, because I don't remember shit. I have to like write stuff down. My desk is like post-its. I take notes as soon as I get done talking to like a parent of a student, because I just don't have the capacity to remember stuff like that. I've always been like that. And I remember it impacted me so much, just being like, I've re-listened to that audio between you and I. That was what, 2 years ago? Times, and I remember telling Melissa, like, it had been what, like a not even a year since my grandma had passed away. And I remember saying that was a first, I mean, I have it on my phone right now. You said, do you grandma recently? And I remember instantly crying. Do you remember this? I remember instantly crying, and it's like making me emotional right now. I remember you saying, like, she's here with you in this room right now. And I remember you saying, like, you're lucky because she's one of your guides. And I think that's the thing we've even talked about with another guest before, that our guides aren't always our family members. And I think people assume that when your family members pass on, they're automatically your angels, which, I guess that's good to think, but that's not always true. So for you to give me that confirmation that, like, my grandma is somebody that's, guiding me through this version of my life is like, man, that was so intense.
Mhm.
Whew, that was intense. Sorry.
It's a blessing for me. I get to not only witness that, I mean, it makes me emotional.
Yeah.
I mean, I swear to God, y'all, I have to have the tissue box there, not just for folks, but for me. And it's
Yeah.
such
Yeah.
a beautiful thing because we're so loved and guided and we're never alone, we're never alone. That's my whole thing. And that's I have to give a shout out to the egg bay in my tradition. That's what we call it. So, you know that thing where they talk about your spirit tribe, like your soul tribe? And I can tell you, Melissa, y'all are like, you've been in this for a minute, like before, right? So that's, for example, when you see somebody and you have that instant connection, that's like our soul tribe. That's our egg bay, right? So we've been traveling for a minute. Some of our egg bay, some of our folks are up there, right? Some of them are down here. And I've had some amazing experiences. Shout out to Mama Margaret. So anyway, after my fire accident, for some reason, well, I know why, my French side of my French became, they were Catholic, very much so. So to honor my ancestors, y'all, I went through catechism. I became a Catholic, right? Not necessarily my walk, but stuff like that. I have this lens and this filter. So say that Melissa, might be Wiccan, right? So, or pagan. So because of so many of my paths, I like to say it's like a quilt, right? And there's so many different patches on that quilt. And so my spiritual life and kind of like me, like we all have that quilt and our different experiences, but we're the blanket, I don't know why I brought that up. So many of my clients, oh, thank you. They're so awesome. So say someone's Catholic. Say someone is, maybe they're not in that path, but their ancestor. I'll see Mary like showing up, and I'm like, that. I don't know if you want to walk with this, but I would give a shout out and go, in New Orleans, and often I'll go to the church because that's my ancestors. That's what I walk with, and I honor what they went through and what they honored. Might not be my walk today, but that's who I represent. I'm going all over the place, but
We love it. We love it.
also it's interesting because I mean, admittedly, not to tell myself, I don't know a lot of verses out of the Bible. I don't. I study theology. I know like that piece, but an ancestor will tell me like, and it's really about the person and what they need at that time. So I'll say like, you got to read Psalm diddle-a-doo, and here comes the tears because maybe that was something their grandma said to them that gave them hope, right?
Yeah.
And so maybe Melissa's going through a divorce, or something, and she needs that sense of hope, right? So that's her connection. That has nothing to do with me. Makes me want to cry every time,
Yeah.
and I've got, all different traditions, and that's what it's about, So to get to the Egg Bay family, like you said, you spoke to that, and you intuitively know that, Stacy. So it's like, we might have another guy that isn't our bloodline, like our DNA bloodline.
Yeah.
So
I do feel that way because I've said, I think, to people like close to me before, I lost my grandma at 36 and I lost my dad at 19. And I've never felt my dad's presence ever in 20 years. I've never felt him in the room with me. I don't know. I can't speak on behalf of my brothers. I don't know. Maybe my other family members have, but he's not one of my guides. So my grandma, it was like, it was almost like I intuitively didn't know that, but you confirmed it. It was sometimes, I think that's something like talking to intuitive healers that I think I need to be better at is trusting my intuition. My mom is so intuitive, like annoyingly intuitive, So like I need to be better about trusting that intuition because I think especially as women, we all women's intuition,
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
We choose to ignore it, but we have it.
I know my mom always tells me that I'm gifted. I know mothers just say that, but she's like, you're so intuitive. So I don't know. Can you talk a little bit about like what your general approach is when you are going to read somebody?
I don't really have like a process, but I'll tell you how it usually goes, right? I show up, I'm open, and what I'm called to do is what I do. But for example, can I use you, Stacy? Not what we talked about. So Stacy comes in. This isn't necessarily how it went because that's her personal sacred thing. But so well, Stacy comes in. I'm like, okay, and I'm just, y'all can tell I'm kind of country. I can read in my car. I read for my clients driving on Bluetooth. It's like that. So, and I just sort of take a deep breath right now, and I got to tell y'all something in a minute. So, I get distracted because I want to say something. So anyway,
Feel free to flow with whatever.
Yeah, because I'm getting some stuff for y'all, and I'm like, okay, y'all, tell me in a second. So, and it's annoying because they're like, tapping, and when they do that, it's not going to stop. So, but I'll show up, and like for example, with Stacy and so many people, like almost everybody, and not everybody knows stuff about ancestors, right? I didn't even know I was going to be doing that when I came into this. Immediately, usually, always, an ancestor shows up, because that's who's giving the information. It's not about me, right? So, I love them. So that's usually what happens. And for me, and they want to be honored and they want to be acknowledged. So that's, and not just because they do it, that's who I am. And so it's my job to give what I perceive as that message, right? So that's kind of the beginning. Now I'll be honest, we go into the cards, but I just kind of push them around so people think I'm doing my job, and a lot of times it's funny because some folks are like, no, turn the card over. And I'm like, y'all, like, I already know it's, but we'll do it. You can look at the picture.
We need that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause
shuffle these. Unshuffle these.
Yeah. It's so, yeah. Here's the magic 8 ball with the triangle. Yeah. But it's that ritual. It's kind of going back to what you were talking about, Stacey. Like when you come in, especially first time readings, there's so much beliefs about it, or sort of like mystical, all that stuff. So when you're sitting there, that's why for a couple reasons I have people record it. One, because that's y'all's information, and I ain't going home with it. It would be too heavy, and it is heavy anyway. And that's I don't even remember it most of the time. Because it's like that. And so also the steps, right? So oftentimes, especially when I'll start talking super fast, because they want this out now. This has been a minute, might have been years since they reached out to their, they got stuff to say. So it's the details. So maybe it's 3 months. Maybe the person, meaning you, Stacey, not now, but you manifest it in your own time, in your lessons, right? So it's the details sometimes. I don't know how that happens, but it'll be like boom, 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 boom. Well, I'm not going to remember that, and you might want that map for later.
Yep.
Yeah. So
so helpful for me.
I'm so glad. I hope that people take advantage of that, because when you're in that space, you're just like, what is that? What's that card? So we're not really receiving the information sometimes. And I feel like y'all pay for it. So get after it, so.
Well, yeah, because especially after you tell me something like start with something so emotional, I would have shut down, because that was really impactful. And then I remember you said, I keep saying like crows or ravens, or like, why do I keep seeing ravens? I don't know if you remember this. This was right when my little brother had his youngest daughter, Raven. And you, I remember you saying, I keep seeing ravens, and like, why do I keep seeing ravens? And I was like, that's my niece's name. And I remember you're like, you're going to be a huge impact on her life. And I was like, damn, I hope so. Guess what? She's a little shit. So I think I might have had a big impact already.
She's what?
Little shit.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what I'm reading right now. She is a powerhouse. Powerhouse. And oh my goodness, she is like straight line to spirit, like, so anyway, for what that's worth, but we'll talk about that. But yeah, it's amazing. I love it. But you all said something, and I got off topic because I was getting stuff. But I will tell you, sometimes it's not easy, of course. And I mind you, I have a whole thing that I do in my tradition. But if I don't acknowledge like my ancestors in the morning, it's a party all day long. It's not gonna, it's almost like whatever our path is, we don't have to sit in a Buddhist position or anything for 4 hours. But even if it's 2 minutes, right? Just to kind of a tree, like just give a shout out when you see a hummingbird, which generally is ancestors, it's like, your grandmother showing up to say, hey, what's up? I'm here. So just acknowledging those pieces. But I want to tell y'all something funny, because Walmart oh my God, there's something about Walmart, because there's so many different dynamics, right? I mean, I literally have to like make the bullet points for my like the grocery list, because it's like clean up on aisle one, and it's not a physical cleanup. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like it's just like a huge. Oh my God! Yeah, yeah. Clean up on aisle one. Yeah, it's like ancestor visiting on aisle three. It's like, oh my goodness. So
She's like, I came in for eggs and I am exhausted.
Yeah, this is a 10-minute trip. What is going on?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So and I think the whole thing, like my whole like goal, because I have a lot of folks that are regulars, and they but the goal is to get folks so that they're aligned with their guides and their egg bay, their spirit tribe, and their ancestors. It's almost like you don't want people to graduate. I mean, I need the money. I'm not saying I don't need to get my rent paid, but that's the goal, right? It's just sort of we just kind of guide each other, really.
I think that it's really beautiful that you come into it confident in what your gift is, right? So you were confident enough to have anyone record your session because you're just the messenger, and that's, like you said, that's their information that's just passing through you. And so I think that in a world where there's all these, who is it, Madame Cleo or whatever, all these like,
follow me now.
So it's like hard. I think people have a hard time trusting that you're not just there to make a dollar. So I think it's super beautiful that you just, as you're feeling it or being, tapped or spoken to, that you're just sharing that, because that you don't feel that that's yours to hold on to. It's a gift given to someone else. So I really appreciate just being in your presence and you sharing this gift with us.
Yeah. Thank you. So, can I say a couple things? Do we have time for this?
Yes, go for
it. Okay. Now, I wouldn't normally do, but I'm getting it, so I got to give it. Okay. So, Melissa, right? I feel like, and this isn't just to put like a plug for me, but I feel like there's two people showing up, right? These are definitely grandparents, right? I think. But did you have a grandpa that was in the military, right?
I actually didn't know either of my grandparents very closely.
This happens a lot. So I am getting told you got to give this cat, excuse me, that's kind of disrespectful, but I'm seeing a taller person, like thinner person. And sometimes they read at different ages, because that's where they felt vibrant, right? This is just my experience. So your job is to like give this guy a cigar, right? So that oftentimes, and we know that native, right? Giving back to the earth. Tobacco is protective, it's healing. So in a pinch, folks will do that, but there's something specific about that. So I feel like he did serve, and it happens a lot like that. We'll go, I don't know this, or I didn't know my dad, or I didn't, so sometimes it comes out later, sometimes it doesn't. But there's some specific things, but I don't feel like we should do it on film. It's very personal, but I also feel like there's this beautiful, I feel like she was a grandmother, maybe a great grandmother. So I feel like their lineage is very European, right? Maybe Irish or something. But this particular, she has kind of the rolled hair. She's a little shorter, thinner, and very benevolent. And so the whole point is they're here right now to support you, because some of them shift, right? Like some folks come in and they're like, oh, I really want to connect with my dad, but their cousin Bill is showing up, because there's a medicine, there's something they want you to have at that time in those lessons at that walk. So we'll talk about it, but thank you for letting me honor that. And it's just so sweet and so, just so benevolent. Just there's a lot of like light around you for whatever reason that is.
That's a fact.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So much light. So Stacy, I know that, and again, this is, and it might not resonate with you right now, but I have to honor him. So I'm not saying your dad is here with you, but I feel like he's, I see it, like he's definitely more back, but I feel like he's, he's had some space to reflect, and I don't know if you smoke, but there's something about, whether you choose to or not, even just give them, that. But I feel like there's like a sense of like what I'm getting is I know now. He knows now. Choices that he made. And I don't want to say regret because we're probably in a different place over there, but it's acknowledging and sort of stepping up and being accountable and now walking in sort of like, because he doesn't want to be invasive, but definitely, being supportive in his own way. Right. So for whatever that's worth. Yeah. Yeah.
We just did an episode talking about choices. So we just did an episode kind of talking about all his choices.
Yeah.
They've affected my brother and I,
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes I love this. When I was doing a lot of my healing, I mean, I always am, but really coming in, my grandmother, may she rest in peace, my grandma Georgia, but also my grandma Dickie, y'all, she's going to be 100 this year. She's still with us.
Wow.
Yeah.
Grandma Dickie?
So, yes, we have, and her name's Dorothy, white like me, we're the lightest ones, from the Scottish and all that. But this woman, she really walks with the Cherokee way. She walks and everything. She used to study with Edgar Casey back in the day, if y'all know who that is. He was like a medical like he was, look him up, he's pretty. So, and then she became a unity minister before that was a thing in Southern California. But she progressed. Anyway, she's done like spirit quests in the native way, and her healing name is Shining Wolf Healing Woman. I love that. So, but she, when she doesn't hear me really well right now, obviously because of age. But she used to tell me, and I think this is kind of how I walk with a little bit of that too. But she'd say, she still would say it. I woke up this morning and I was out last night. I helped a lot of people, So she's one of those that like leaves, when she's sleeping. And that's to me a lot of work through lifetimes, if you want to say, that takes a lot. I don't have that skill set. I have a really good friend, shout out to Eric. And he that's what he does. I have a lot of clients that do that. So
leave their body when they're sleeping to help.
She leaves, she bails, like she goes and and she comes back, she'll tell me all about it,
That's so crazy.
I love that. That's
awesome.
So nuts. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you go ahead, Melissa.
No, you go.
I was just gonna ask about astrology. Like, how do you kind of incorporate astrology in or in your healing?
So it's like a different modality. So like the way I like to say it, and I'll just kind of intuit. So astrology, and I kind of, my thing is intuitive astrology, which is like my own thing for some reason. So I'll look at the chart, the birth natal chart, what we came in with, and that's fascinating because not even twins have the same chart, right?
Yeah.
Seconds apart, the mathematical and vibration. I mean, it gets deep layers. So what we come in with, that's like our blueprint, and we're all unique like snowflakes, right? So it's kind of looking at our gifts and some of our challenges, maybe our struggles where we can learn. So it's kind of like almost looking at ourselves and what we, what we're kind of the foundation in a lot of ways, and the tarot, which sometimes I use that, so it just kind of comes through. That kind of stuff is like what's going on today, and steps moving forward. So sometimes folks will come in like sunlight. That used to happen a lot. And I want an astrology reading because, we hear things on YouTube or TV, it's got to be an astrology, I need to know that. And, Spirit's telling me they're having a little career shift, you know what I'm saying? And we need to like navigate that. So I'll just share it with them. It's their choice. But yeah.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
I saw something on TikTok, as we all know.
Yeah. Every interview you bring up TikTok.
So TikTok, get at us. Damn, I forgot what I was gonna freaking say.
Sorry.
Maybe this healer on there was saying, hey, like newsflash, there is no heaven and hell. Flash, God loves everybody, no matter what. sin's always forgiven and your heaven is like whatever you envision it to be, but there is no hell. That is a tool that like organized religion uses as a fear, like basically fear mongering. If you fall in line and follow what the church rules are, you're gonna go to hell. Do you believe that, or like that's always just a question I want to ask?
Well, I could answer that in like really two ways. My tradition and really walking with a lot, I'm really I kind of go way back to the indigenous folks. I look like a bougie white lady, but that's that's kind of my foundation. Which is interesting because I have a lot of imposter syndrome about that. Because I work a lot. I mean, so much of really my path now is actually West Nigerian. So I get a lot of folks that are like, why is this cracker trying to tell me what's up? Uh, and so I walk with that, I struggle with that because I'm like, why me? Why me? So I had a friend, I want to say her name, Mariana. She's a powerhouse in Sacramento. And she's amongst many things. And I know I'm speaking like I'm going off point, but she she said she started off as a client, like at Sunlight. But we became buddies, like like happens like that. They're my family. And I'm crying one day and I'm like, why me? Like such a victim. Why am I being called to this tradition? And she's got 5 planets in Leo, y'all. Like that's it. That's all. Like that's the way it's gonna be. And she looked at me, and it was like all her aunt, like it was like, whoo, Shaka Khan. And she said, you don't know who needs to hear the message from your face. Right? And I mean, that makes me want to cry. It's like it stopped me, first of all, from feeling sorry for myself. And secondly, I don't know. It's none of my business. It is none of my business, you know? So, yeah, so that piece. But you said something and I wanted to speak to it and I went off on my little tangent.
Inhale.
Huh?
Inhale.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Okay. So speaking to my tradition, and a lot of indigenous, we make choices. We make choices. Maybe I'm gonna stick with this boyfriend for a minute and like you're because I know y'all can read anyway. I'm gonna have to get reading from y'all. And the message is, hey, let's break the cycle. Your ancestors are supporting you. And maybe you're not ready, right? So that comes up in 3 years. Maybe it never comes up. It's not necessarily the wrong way. It's still your path and it's still to be honored and there's no judgment. But it takes what it takes. And I'm hell bent, it takes a lot for me. I gotta hit the ground, stop, drop, and roll. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's so the heaven and hell thing, that hasn't been my experience that there's that at all. And there are choices. But it's almost like I don't know. Like I do. I mean, I'm be honest. Some folks don't believe in reincarnation, and I have to honor that and sort of filter it in a way where they actually get the information. And that's not necessarily for me to say. For me, I know I've been around for a minute, so it's like we get to come back and revisit it, right? My whole thing is I've been through a lot in this lifetime, and I want to clean some of that up. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to come back because there's some stuff I want to learn, but so it's like I don't know, like whatever we don't speaking to the black, so heaven, right? So to me, again, that's my egg bale. Like I go home to my spirit tribe when I'm done, and hang out, but I don't necessarily believe in a heaven. If folks use those words in that language, because language can be so limiting, but I certainly don't believe in the devil, like what our Western culture and some I don't at all. I'll be honest, I don't.
I don't either. I think that people just are who they are and shaped by experiences. And just like you said, I definitely think, since I've been on my own healing journey the last 5-10 years, I believe in past lives because there's all this stuff. Now it's like a lot of the spiritual stuff is becoming more popular, which is cool, but a lot of it's clickbait words. But like, I do believe in soulmates. I do believe in twin flames. And there's really people I've met, and within 2 minutes, I'm like, I knew you in a past life. You were somebody significant. We have some type of soul contract. Sometimes, like my last relationship, my last relationship was 100% a soul contract, and I allowed this person to treat me worse than I probably would let anybody treat me. And now being out of it, really, honestly, after this weekend, really out of it and really clear on the situation, like I had It really, that was my defining, like, okay, like, so like I'm grateful for that. And same with like Melissa. I feel we've only been friends really what, like
Mhm.
10 years now, and she's that's my person, so I definitely believe in like soulmates, past lives, people kind of fulfill soul contracts,
Mhm.
taking all of that into the next life.
Mhm. Mhm.
I
Oh,
agree.
definitely. I had a really strong experience with that when I was 22. And this gal, I was a tree hugger. And so I was at this health food store. And this gal, we kind of became buddies. And we were kind of pagan, earth and everything. And she goes, I want you to meet somebody. And I'm like, whatever. Um, so I show up at this thing, blind date. And this such hot guy shows up, y'all. I'm talking cha-ching. And I mean, he was like an Irish Adonis. And so my mind, I'm like, oh my God, he's good looking. He's probably an asshole. Um,
What?
yeah, that like, hello. So, but the packet anyway, um, there's something, there was definitely like we could, yeah, we've been around together for a minute. So, for whatever reason, he was able to like, I guess you call it handle me. Like he was very okay with me being empowered and having opinions. We had debates. Everybody has different fits with people. Um, but I guess I'm sharing this to tell on myself and almost like for folks, maybe to be inspired by this. So because a lot of stuff I went through as a kid and having some stuff, I didn't, and this guy was down, like I'm talking down, and I didn't know how to receive that at that time. And there was so much there, like energetically, um, that I sabotaged it. I didn't consciously know that that's what I did, you know. But looking back, it was a very powerful lesson, um, to not give up on that aspect and always be open, you know,
Yeah.
because we don't know when, and maybe it's not that type of a relationship, but to love, always choose love. And
Yeah.
yeah,
I feel like
yeah.
Melissa's really, really good about that. Really
Mm,
about that. Just being love. And for me, it's always the
mm,
waves. Love is like waves, it always washes back to shore, but it sometimes goes I go rogue go to sea sometimes.
mm, mm.
I think we all do. I was
Yeah.
just like sitting with the heaven and hell thing for a minute too. It's like, I kind of feel like, were those just like characters that someone made up to like describe our like own demons and struggles and our own happiness and joys? You know what I mean? Like everything, I mean, that was many,
Mm,
many years ago. So it's like maybe they just
mm,
created these like characters to associate with, our
Oh,
our
damnation.
happiness and our joys, and then being heaven, and then our own demons and struggles and things that we deal with being the devil. I don't know. I don't believe in a physical devil either, so I think
mm,
that's just where my mind goes, but I know that's a very real thing to some people, so
mm.
I don't know,
Yeah.
that's just kind of where
Yeah.
what I was kind of pondering.
Yeah, Melissa, that is so sacred and so beautiful. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Because from we have sort of archetypes, maybe, you know. So maybe that's to sort of remind us not to go there, you know. And so maybe it is creative, maybe it's also, I think kind of it is. So it's almost like guides, in that way. So it's kind of like rules, that we might want to follow or aspire to.
Yeah, and
Now,
then
I'm
over
not.
time people
Mhm,
just changed it to this fear mongering
mhm,
thing instead of
Don't be a fucking evil piece of shit. Hello.
mhm, mhm. Yeah.
You know?
And
Or
so,
you're
I mean, I guess to speak to that, if there was a sin, I don't, that's not my walk. But for me, um, fear is, you know, it's my friend. It'll motivate me. It's there to protect me. But I'm talking about fear, reacting on fear, making choices. I'm talking, sometimes it happens, but I'm talking about historically, right? Um, Racism, right? What happened, in the diaspora, or Hitler, right? All fear that we're not going to get what we want, or we don't, or stuff working out, because Hitler's like mom was like half Jewish or something. Like he was, what I'm saying. So, I mean, we're not working out or facing our shadow, right?
yeah.
Um, because there's a thing. I think it was Joseph Campbell or Carl Jung. We're probably over time, but it's called the wounded healer. It's an archetype. I love archetypes of the wounded healer. So if I don't do my work and I don't surrender, I'm a wounded healer, right? So I'm working with Melissa and I can't show up because I'm wounded. Really, I'm not going to say I'm perfect because that that's not happening. But if I show up and I try, really walk through, not around my healing and my wounds, then I can inspire other people to walk through it and love their imperfections. And in spite of that, still shine and walk through it, because I can't heal. It's like that oxygen mask thing. I hate that analogy, but if I can't love and honor myself and what I walk with, and I'm not saying this is easy, this is definitely one of my hardest things. And I'm really getting it this weekend with this eclipse. But, if I can't show up in that way, I can create really a situation for somebody. That's my, you always are protected and you walk with spirit. That's also my opinion, right? So like when I was in New Orleans, I know I'm going off, this thing would happen. I'm going to tell myself. So I'm new in New Orleans, I'm on the dating apps, you know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to meet people, not only like that, but, want to meet some folks, right? So I keep meeting these guys and, that's my peeps right there. A lot of Creole folks. So, anyway, I'm dating, we're showing up, meeting these people. And, so I think that was one of the questions too. So I'm curious. I want to know what I'm getting into. I'm like, let's do your chart, so that situation I told y'all about, I do it. They're like, whatever. And then some stuff comes out and they're like scared of me then, and the first thing that comes out with Southern guys, a lot of times, or women, are you going to do roots on me, right? So what that means down here in New Orleans is you're fixing to do some juju. Like you're going to, put some blood in my spaghetti. Like Eric will totally laugh about that, but and like that. And I mean, back in the day, just to speak to this, in Ghana and Haiti, I'm not judging that because folks had to do what they had to do, right? I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but this is the thing, because I have a lot of people come to me that say, I need a black candle, or what can I do to protect, and I've been through some stuff. I'm gonna let y'all know. I was in Haiti. I did Kanza Supuan in Haiti. That's no joke. You know what I'm saying? Like, Kanza Supuan means trial by fire. So it was a journey, so for whatever, nobody can mess up your destiny, your Ori. Nobody can do that, right? Because you can't trump God, goddess, universe, Aludamare, all these names, right? That's my experience. And I've been to the lowest of low and come up, and I'm still coming up. So I just want to speak to that because I think folks like, it's kind of fun, maybe to get like a, and New Orleans sometimes we'll do like a chicken foot on the door. So it's not like just sending out a message like you don't want to hit this house, but all that stuff and like old stuff on bourbon and like what people buy, it's great. And sometimes it makes us feel empowered. But the archetype, the meaning, my point is, don't let anybody take your sunshine. Sometimes folks might be able to swerve your path, right? But don't give that stuff power at all. That's just me being me,
That's right. That's right. Don't let them cry it out and then get over it, right? That's what we do. Poor Melissa has to hear me cry, and then I'm like, whatever, fuck them.
Same Z's. But I think this is another, I'm glad you're speaking to this because this is exactly why we wanted to do this podcast, or at least like, I don't know what this is going to evolve into, but just highlighting people's imperfections and that they're so beautiful still. Like we're all still so beautiful and meant to be exactly where we are. And so it's just, the more we show these imperfections and uncover, what Instagram filters are are hiding, I think that we're gonna see a whole lot more honesty, truth, authenticity, and just true beauty. And so I'm excited for just the direction of all of our journeys.
I agree with that. I definitely think, like we've said a million times, if this ended tomorrow, us doing this, it wouldn't be a failure because, luxury of educating ourselves first and then other people on meeting beautiful people like you who are willing. That's the biggest thing. Melissa and I are just here having fun, and we get to hear these stories from these people that we love and admire, and that's been really, really cool.
And the conversations aren't going to stop. So this might, like I said, transform into something else. We might stop doing it on this platform, but I think that for me personally, my journey is never going to stop. Like, I'm going to continue to have these conversations. I'm going to continue to learn and try and be less ignorant day by day, by hearing people's stories and learning what to say and not to say, and what to do and not do. So I think that you're a piece of that puzzle for us right now, today, in this moment. So thank you, Serrena.
Oh my goodness, Serena. And thanks y'all for doing the work too. Because I see y'all. I see y'all.
Let's plug your stuff.
Huh?
Let's plug your stuff.
Plug my stuff?
Where can people find you or your work?
Okay, shout out, y'all. So
I have it here if you need me to.
I'm gonna tell y'all that my social media stuff doesn't really speak, because like I was in New Orleans, like all these selfies, and I'm not consistent. But it's being a Debbie Downer, Capricorn. My Facebook is the name of my business, Epiphany Inc. Right, so that's my Facebook. My Instagram is the same, Epiphany Inc. with a lower score thing. My website is epiphanyinc.org. And then on my Wix platform, I'm going to be doing a bunch of stuff. So even if you just go to my website, I'm going to be in maybe in the, contact thing and put your email, any questions that people have. I love that. And I'm kind of old school. So I just let people call me like 6 in the morning, 3 in the but I need to cut that out. But my phone number is my business too is 916 Sacramento area code, and then 329-2090. So
awesome. Yeah. So check Serrena out. And then we'll put all of your info in the link in our YouTube, and then whatever information we can put on our Spotify as well, so people can access it. And then we'll share all of this on our Instagram and Facebook. And so hopefully people can get in touch with you. And if any of you have questions for Serrena or would like to take advantage of her services, her gift, then reach out to her.
Well, also don't forget you can find Being Human and Other Shit on Facebook, Instagram. We are on TikTok, and also we have a big event coming up December 5th. 4th.
Welcome, Stacy.
December 5th. December 4th, we have a big event coming up. It is our singles roulette or event.
It is not singles. Stop saying that.
Well, come on.
Can I get off the app? Can I get off the apps? Is it like singles, like dating singles, or is it
it's called speed dating roulette, and it's if you want to find friends, if you want to find lovers. It's all inclusive, all genders, all sexual orientations, all ages, anyone over the age of 18. So please join us. The information is on our all of our stuff, our Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff's on there. So.
Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful.
I hope you join us.
Yeah, you should join us. It's going to be super fun. It'll basically nighttime for you. So it's like Lover's Lane. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh my God. So it's like remote?
Yeah. So it's virtual, and then it'll be like 3-minute sessions with people, and it's an app we're using, and you'll be able to select like if you felt connected to somebody or you felt like you want to continue a conversation after that interaction or conversation, you'll be able to say like, yeah, I like that person, or no. And then if you guys match up and both like each other, you can continue a conversation afterwards.
Oh, y'all are you guys like our vessel for connection. I just want to say that. That's awesome. And so is this on YouTube too?
Yes.
Oh, good Lord. I've been so afraid. Anyway, yeah, that's about me. I got to let it go. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I can't wait to talk to y'all after this. Thank you guys so much. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your gift with us. We really appreciate it.
Beautiful mess.
Thank you so much.
Life is a beautiful mess. A beautiful mess.